Yeah, now that leads me to ask, what criteria, or how will you choose the artists who actually are part of this?
Well, we have a jury, and the jury is from outside of Greensboro, and there are all artists and scholars. So we have, I don't think my list has them, but we have Susan Harbridge Page, who is in the Women's and Gender program at UNC Chapel Hill. Gina Valentine is a associate professor and does a lot of work around community-based projects at Chapel Hill. We have the curator, director of programs at the Center for Documentary Studies, Pedro Lash, who is a professor at Duke University. We have an associate curator at the Nasher. So they will—
You got them all.
Yeah, they will assess the program based on the quality of the work and how it relates to our themes.
Okay.
And then, of course, we as a panel will have a voice in that as well. We would not want to necessarily accept work that is totally unrelated to our themes, or work that is just done for complete shock value and it's not going to help us meet our objectives. Mm-hmm. But there will be work that will be uncomfortable. These are uncomfortable times, and that's okay. And we actually look forward to that work because we think from there the conversations can really go into a deep space that we all need to reside in and think about for a while.
I was interested in the statement you made at the beginning of the program. There's no question that race relations is something that needs our attention and needs a lot of work on everybody's part. But you mentioned that Mayor Vaughn said that our problem was poverty. How did the mention of poverty lead you to conclude that race relations is what you needed to focus on?
Well, at that particular CEOs for Cities, the conversations that we were having as a conference were around inequity. And there's structural inequity in our communities, not just Greensboro's community, but across the country. And it all stems from a lack of, I believe, structural inequity, lack of resources, lack of access. And so for me to go from poverty and lack of an imbalance in equity to racial relations was not a stretch, and it's happening in the news today. But again, we want to stress that this isn't just about a black-white dynamic. This is about the multicultural nature of Greensboro. There's 105 languages spoken in Greensboro County schools, and so we want to embrace all of that into this project, that anyone from anywhere in this city can come and have a dialogue or participate in some level, and it would be meaningful to them, regardless of where they were born, where they were raised, or where they're living now.
And language, just to segue from what Laura shared, ultimately offers a glimpse into racialized dimension of poverty, because if people immigrate into a community and they can't speak the language, then they're automatically at a disadvantage for seeking economic opportunity, which then also not only highlights the economic disadvantage they face, but also the fact that they do not speak whatever the predominant language is, which has a race dimension to it.
Well, it's clear that connection. There's no question about that. And both of you can speak to this. The situation in Greensboro, how do you see it today? Is it improving? Is it worsening? How do you see the racial tension situation in Greensboro right now?
Well, I see race as an intersectional issue, meaning that I don't just see it through the lens of one's ethnicity. I see it through the lens of one's ability, status, one's language status, one's socioeconomic status. And I think certainly work remains to be done, because there are a lot of institutions and community foundations invested in improving race relations in the city. And their very existence confirms the work that still needs to be done and has been done. I think with the marker of the stone being placed at Morningside Homes to acknowledge the racial tension and episodic violence that happened in the latter 70s between the Ku Klux Klan and certain members of multi-ethnic communities here is just one of many examples that says that the city is invested in not erasing the history, learning from it, healing from it, and moving forward. and then putting resources into organizations like the NCCJ, like Green Hill, to offer different lenses and snapshots by which to move conversations forward, whether it's with people or whether it's with monetary resources or coming together collaborative experiences.
Very
so work
interesting.
remains to be done.
Yeah, it does. Ivan, how do you see that situation?
I would agree. I think I have a different vantage point. NCCJ is known for our flagship program, Anytown, and so that's high school students. And high school students are having these conversations. They're having these conversations in larger ways than we are as a community. They're comfortable with it. If you think about it, these are the students who are in those classrooms that 50% of the students in classrooms now are kids of color, right? So they're more used to having the dialogue. They're used to being around people that are different than them. And so while things aren't completely perfect there, they are more willing to have those conversations that we're seeing. But I do think that, as Dara said, one of the great things is that progress is being made. I think that Greensboro has to deal with it because we are in a community that is so diverse, right? You can look at a lot of other communities that maybe aren't even willing to do a project like this, right? The fact that we've got major foundations in Greensboro, like the Bryan Foundation, S.J. Edwards Foundation, the Community Foundation, that are willing to put their names behind a project like this.
Yeah.
I think that speaks for the value that they see in this project and the need to have this kind of conversation and the beauty of what coming together these organizations and their boards and their staffs and their volunteers and their supporters coming together will do around this topic.
Yeah, that is important. I was interested in Walker Sanders' comments, the head of the Community Foundation of Greensboro, in supporting and endorsing this project. So you do have some sponsors, some pretty high-powered sponsors.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so that's very good. Now, I take it this is not going to be just like a stroll through a museum. These are actually going to be some sit-down sessions where people, take in what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many of those, do you know how many of those there will be?
Well, we're anticipating up to 5 panels, discussions. The open dialogue sessions is in flux.
Yeah.
We could have as few as 13, as many as 20, because we're trying to make the programming, again, as accessible as possible and paying attention to people's attention span. No one wants to sit and be talked at for too long, so we want to make them as participatory as possible. So we may have open dialogue sessions to open a program, have a part 1 of a panel discussion, bring in another open dialogue session for music or dance, let everybody breathe a little bit, come back and have some more discussion. So we envision that happening, not every day of the 16 days of the event. One of the nice things that's happening in the timing of this, it falls at the last few days of 17 days, so that we get to piggyback on with all the energy and activity of Arts Greensboro's 17 days, which is also helping to fund this project. So we just think it's really fabulous. This really great opportunity.
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. Now, you're talking about a lot of artists. A lot of people are going to be involved in this thing. Are they all being compensated, or is this a freebie for them, or how's that going to work?
Well, it is a freebie. We're doing this. This is a labor of love. We're all giving a lot of time and energy to this. We do have a project manager that just came on board this week, who a lot of people in the community will get to know her name, Michelle Corello. She will be reaching out, helping get people on our committees and to meetings and community gatherings. But yes, this is all a labor of love, aside from the project manager right now.
Well, do you see this as a one-time thing, or do you envision it growing and maybe doing something like this on a periodic basis? Yeah.
Well, we were talking about that. High Point University is actually going to take the art that we have in the exhibition and maybe some of the dialogue sessions, and they're traveling it to High Point University. So it's already traveling. But this is a model that any community could take and make their own. So NCCJ in Connecticut could take this project if they wanted to do that. it certainly is adaptable to everyone's community.
Well, when I first got the information about this, I looked at it and I said, this must be, you must be, piggybacking off of a national movement or a national project or organization, but that's not the case. This is your baby, right?
This is our baby.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And then it's important that we're the three here today representing our organizations, but the Native American Gallery and the African American Atelier are important partners to this project, and they bring their own perspective and their own constituency who offer a different viewpoint. So it really is a robust program.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a couple of minutes left, but in the time we have left, give us just a brief capsule of what CVA does. What is your thrust, and what do you do it normally?
Well, completely supports emerging artists that may have yet to develop a talent on the beginning skill set to the advanced skill set from ages 3 to adult. And throughout the academic year, there are a number of after-school programs that are offered for youth ages 3 through 18, and that bleeds into the summer, and there are a variety of summer camp opportunities. Throughout the year, there are perhaps at least a half a dozen exhibition opportunities for artists that have come up through the ranks of CVA or who are just established artists in their own right, who may rent the Center for Visual Artists space and exhibit, as well as ultimately we try to offer unique opportunities for people to come together and paint. For example, there was a competition that they hosted that will culminate next Friday with 12 final artists who are called together to paint to music and who will move forward to be the North Carolina artists for that endeavor. So using art as a medium to bring communities together for unique experiences.
I have about a 1-minute capsule of NCCJ. Now, we've had Susan Fight on several times on this program, and she's talked about a lot of things, but give our viewers a quick overview.
Well, we are human relations organizations at its core, and we really work to bring people together around issues of difference. And our flagship way to do that and engine is Anytown with high school students here in Guilford County, which is a week-long summer residential program.
Yeah, very, very good. All right, Laura, give us again the what, when, and where.
Okay, so Art and Dialogue, Responding to Racial Tension in America, September 24th through October 11th. The site is Greensboro College. It'll happen in their building with their art program, and we encourage people to go to greenhillnc.org art-dialogue to find more information, but we will launch our social media program next week. Look for posters, look for more news.
Sounds great. I commend you for what you've done, and this sounds like an exciting program and a very beneficial program for Greensboro. Thank all of you for being with us, and as we were talking earlier, we'll try to do another program on this, maybe closer to the time as plans are a little more concrete and we can get into more specifics.
Yeah.
But again, thanks very much for being with us and sharing.
Thank you.
And as always,
you.
we thank you for watching our program.
All right.
Thank you.
You're watching Cable 8, Greensboro Community Television.